All right, everyone, I want to talk to you guys about something that has been on my mind for a long time now, and that is growing hatred towards Jewish people. I've been noticing this within recent years, really within, I want to say, the last 6 years or so. A lot of people hate Jews. A lot of people have been more and more open about their animosity towards Jewish people, and it's becoming more and more common to notice, more common to see. I remember years ago going onto YouTube and looking at videos about the Holocaust, and then looking at the comment sections and seeing a flood of comments on all of these videos denying the Holocaust, comments denying the Holocaust, comments praising Hitler, expressing sympathy towards Hitler. And I thought to myself, my goodness, all of these comments denying the Holocaust, questioning the Holocaust, expressing adulation for Adolf Hitler, it really is quite disturbing because YouTube comments can really give you an idea as to how a lot of people feel about a certain topic. So if you watch a video that's critical of Donald Trump and you read the comments and you notice that there are so many comments in support of Donald Trump, well, it's quite obvious that a huge amount of the American population supports Donald Trump. Because if so many people hated on him and if so many people supported these videos that are critical of Trump, then it'll give you an idea that Trump is quite hated, that Trump is really not that popular. But when you see so many people supporting him, yes, a lot of people hate him, but at the same time, a huge amount of the population support him and love him and revere him. So when you see a storm of comments saying that the Holocaust didn't happen, that the Holocaust is a hoax, that Adolf Hitler was a good Christian man and Hitler really wasn't that bad, that gives you an idea that a lot of people love Hitler, that a lot of people deny the Holocaust. I begin to notice this sort of phenomena years and years ago. I want to say maybe like really around a decade or so ago. I noticed how a lot of people were reading the work of David Irving. And I remember seeing David Irving back in like 2008, 2009. And then I heard more about him in 2011. And David Irving is an historian. He's an English historian who wrote a book questioning the narrative about the Holocaust, questioning the consensus about the Holocaust. And he said, well, really, it wasn't 6 million Jews. The number really was a lot smaller, blah, 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 blah. And David Irving became a very, very successful historian. He became a very successful author. A lot of people bought his work on the Holocaust. And the fact that Irving's work has been so popular over the years, going back a decade, you can see his popularity, tells us that this hatred towards the Jews, hatred towards Israel, hatred towards the official consensus on the Holocaust has been growing for a long time. And I've been noticing it. And if you were to say 10 years ago, look, hatred towards the Jews is increasing, it's growing, people probably would not have believed you because 10 years ago, there was still a strong voice in support of Israel. And then if you go back further than that, you can see that there were so many Americans that expressed their support for Israel. And that was really when the boomer generation dominated voting. They dominated the elections as far as voting went. And so support for Israel was very strong. But now you're noticing a decline and you're noticing a growing indifference towards Israel. And another thing that I've noticed is not just an indifference, but a growing explicit animosity towards Israel. So it's not just who cares about Israel, let Israel fend for itself, let Israel do its own thing, let Israel take care of its own business. Why does America have to take care of Israel? It's not just that. It's also a growing, just outright hatred, like an overt hatred towards Israel. Like, F those people, let them take care of themselves, blah, 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 blah. And there are people who will question me about this. They won't question the fact that this is a growing reality or a growing phenomena, but they will say, Ted, isn't this a good thing? Isn't it a good thing that people are recognizing how the Jews control the banks, how Jews control governments, how Jews control the U.S. government, how Jews control America's foreign policy? And I will say that it's really not, what I will say is that when you see people questioning the official narrative on the Holocaust, or when you see people questioning the history, when you see people expressing hatred towards Israel and saying that Jews own the banks and that there are many Jews who are in the banking industry and that they are overrepresented, that Jews are overrepresented in Hollywood or in the financial district, what I will say to that is, while certain things that these people say could be true, that yes, there are a lot of Jewish people who work in Hollywood. Yes, there are a lot of Jewish people who work in the financial realm. While these things may be true, it is not a good thing that people are enraged by this. It's not a good thing that people are explicitly expressing hatred towards Jewish people. It's not a good thing. The reason why I say it's not a good thing is because, for one, people who gravitate towards Nazism hate Jews. And if we have more and more people gravitating towards hatred against the Jews, then that means that we have more and more people gravitating towards fascism and Nazism. This is just a clear indication. It's a very clear way. It's a very easy way to gauge how people are maneuvering towards those destructive ideologies. It's kind of like criticism towards jihadism, right? People will say, "Oh, look, Muslims are committing terrorism." Well, yes, that's true. But then you have these ultra-nationalists who come out and they're like, "Oh, all these Muslim immigrants are going to destroy our country, blah, blah, blah. Follow us." And what they really mean to say is, follow our ideology that is destructive. So people may point towards true things. They may point towards facts. They may point towards accurate observations. But they do so with destructive motives. When you start denying history, when you start denying the Holocaust, what you're essentially saying is that the Nazis weren't that bad. And if you can convince enough people that the Nazis weren't that bad, then people may just return to that destructive ideology. And that's what makes this so dangerous. We live in a post-Christian world when people are very susceptible towards paganistic, folkish ideologies that put race above everything. And when you have enough people hating Jews in such an environment, people who are involved or people who are into folkish religion will turn to Jew hatred, will turn to hatred towards Jews, and really just become full-blown Nazis. And that's really the recipe that's being done here. That's the recipe that's being created here. When you live in a world where more and more people are susceptible towards joining paganism, more and more towards joining racialist nationalism, more and more towards joining ideologies that focus so much on blood and soil, throw in hatred towards the Jews, and what do you have? Really, at the end of the day, you have Nazism, you have Ustasha ideology, you have just a blood and soil religion. So I don't really see this as a good thing. I don't see this as a good thing. It's like, somebody asked me a few days ago, Ted, what do you think about these protests, these riots that have been happening in Iran against the regime of the Ayatollah Khomeini? And I told this person that I really am not that optimistic about it, because in Iran, you really only have two worldviews. You have either Islamism, which is basically Ayatollahism, and then you have Iranian ultranationalism. And in Iran, there is a very strong positive sentiment towards Hitler. A lot of people in Iran love Hitler because they see him as a hero who stood up to the Jews. And you see this amongst secular Iranians who are hardcore nationalists, and you also see this amongst Islamists, people who revere the Ayatollah Khomeini. So if you have a bunch of people who say we hate the Ayatollah Khomeini, but we're hardcore Iranian nationalists, really, what alternative are you pointing towards here? Well, these people are great because they're against the Ayatollah. Well, let's say they overthrow the Ayatollah. What then would we have left in Iran? We would have a hardcore nationalist regime that would probably revere Hitler, and it wouldn't be anything good. And they would be people who would, go back to the days, or they will look with admiration towards the ancient Persian past, towards King Darius and Cyrus and the worship of Ahura Mazda, and it'll be just nationalistic paganism. That's what it'll be, paganistic nationalism. So it's the same thing with this rise in hatred towards the Jews, and really, Kanye, the rapper, has become the main image for this growing phenomena. Because now it's, before, when people questioned the Holocaust or when people bashed Jewish people, those people would be called racist. But now Kanye is the main voice for expressing one's dislike for Jews. And now people can say, you see, it's not really a race issue because we have this African-American celebrity who agrees with us. So Kanye's voice is becoming the canary in the coal mine. His voice is becoming an indication for this growing phenomenon. The fact that we have someone as famous as Kanye saying the same sort of stuff that neo-Nazis would say tells us something, that this hatred is becoming thicker and thicker. And I have noticed things in my life that are very disturbing. People joining paramilitaries, people joining a Nazi paramilitary group. I've seen this in my own life. It's very disturbing. It's very scary. A number of months ago, I walked out of my house to my front yard to see a pamphlet on my lawn telling me that Jews are Satanists, that Jews control the porn industry, that Jews are evil, that they are satanic. And I find this highly disturbing because 2 decades ago or so, if you would have told me, Ted, people are going to be putting anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic pamphlets on your front lawn, I would not have believed that. I would have been shocked to hear such a prediction. But here I am in the year 2022, and I see anti-Jewish pamphlets, anti-Jewish propaganda on my yard. And the next day, or a couple of days after that, the pamphlet came back. So I went onto Google and I looked this up, and I found a plethora of reports online from people saying that they found the same pamphlets on their front lawns, on their front yards. What the hell is going on here? And I know some of my neighbors, and they are very pro-Israel. I mean, the idea that this would happen in my own neck of the woods is quite shocking. It really is. It's scary, guys. You have people who join ultra-nationalistic or ultra-racialist cults, and they focus on the folk, and they focus on being part of a tribe, and they're going to worship the old gods, and it's just creepy. It's very creepy. It's very disturbing. Oh, but Ted, it's a good thing that that people are looking at the reality of the Holocaust. No, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. For one thing, I believe the consensus on the Holocaust. I believe what the history tells us about the Holocaust. The Holocaust did indeed happen, and any attempt to question the Holocaust, I think, has destructive motives. Or it has, even if somebody means well by questioning it, the end result of such a sentiment is destruction. It's not good. It is not good, because once you start questioning the Holocaust, then the end conclusion is, okay, Hitler wasn't that bad. And that leads to nothing good. And we are seeing this. It's not just in America, guys. It's all over the world. The fact that we have NATO supporting Ukrainian far-rightists, the fact that we see neoliberals today and neoconservatives today downplaying the far-right presence in Ukraine, downplaying the prevalent far-right political ideology in Ukraine, just so that we can have a proxy against Russia, is very disturbing. The fact that you can show people a video of somebody being crucified by Ukrainian Nazis and they say, oh, that's acting, or they say, who gives a shit, that guy's Russian, that is disturbing. The fact that you can see a video of a Russian being buried alive by Ukrainian Nazis and people say, oh, it's fake, or who cares, whatever, that is disturbing. It's harrowing. It's a harrowing reality that we live in today. We are going down a path towards fascism. It's happening. It's happening. And I'm not saying that America is going to become the Third Reich or anything like that, but just generally speaking, what we are seeing is a trend towards fascism. And in Germany, you can see this. And I have written a number of articles on this. I did a video about this back in 2019, and the video got taken down by YouTube for being anti-Semitic, which is so ironic because I was warning people about anti-Semitism in the video. And there's a lot of hatred against what is perceived as the Jewish lobby, not just in America, but also in Europe. There's this sort of thing. And I want to read to you guys some excerpts from an article that I wrote in June of last year. So in June of last year, I wrote an article called The Future Extermination of the Jews, and how there is this growing phenomena of hatred against Jewish people. I want to read to you guys some excerpts from this. So there is a report from 2019 that expresses this desire for independence from American power in Europe. And this has been intensifying for years now. Germany wants to be a commercial partner with Iran. Germany wants to do commerce with Iran. And the Americans don't like this. They have been not liking this for decades, and they have been trying to impede Germany in this pursuit for decades. And the Germans have a lot of anger about this, but there's also something that is not very much talked about, and that is how the pro-Israel activists in both the German government and the American government work to stop Germany from making commercial dealings with Iran. And so because there is this growing desire in Germany to become independent from America, this desire is also a part of this desire to be free from pro-Israel influence, or really, to be more frank, from Jewish influence. So because America's desire to stop other countries from doing deals with Iran is connected with America's pro-Israel position, then independence from American control is not solely independence from Washington's control, but independence from the Jewish lobby's control, independence from the pro-Israel lobby's control, independence from Jewish activists who are operating in the German and American governments. So America says, Germany, you can't do deals with Iran. And why does America have this position? Because America is pro-Israel. So the Germans then turn to the Americans and say, okay, the reason why you're trying to control us is because you have the Israel lobby in Washington. And we want to break free, not just from American control, but from the control that is imposed by the pro-Israel lobby. So this is how the anti-Jewish sentiment is manifesting itself. It's not just people on the internet, but it's people within government that have this hatred towards Israel, and they have this hatred towards this control that the pro-Israel lobby has, or this influence that the pro-Israel lobby has, and they want to destroy it. So in a way, I can see how the world is turning against Israel, and how if there is another Holocaust in the future, how it's going to be supported. These people have control over us. These people control our government. They don't allow us to be free. It must be destroyed. And so if there is going to be another Holocaust, you can see the sort of rhetoric that is going to be said prior to it actually happening. So there is a 2019 report that expresses this desire in Germany for independence from American power. It is entitled Strategic Autonomy of Europe, and it was written by numerous researchers for the European Union. And in this report, the desire for autonomy sparked by America's withdrawal from the Iran deal is made clear. Quote, the dispute with the Trump administration over the nuclear deal with Iran makes it clear how difficult it is for the EU to defend its own security and regulatory ideas against political and economic pressure. So we must break free from American control if we're going to have our deals with Iran. But why does America want to stop us from having deals with Iran? It's because America has the pro-Israel lobby, and that must be destroyed. Do you see how this sort of agenda can escalate towards hatred against Israel? This report also speaks of a deepening of Franco-German ties, although that lately that tie has been weakening, as a response to America's spite towards the Iran deal. Since the U.S. administration terminated the Iran nuclear deal, Berlin and Paris have come closer to each other on essential foreign and security policy issues. The report gives further remonstrance. The U.S. government is currently forcing European companies out of the macroeconomically insignificant Iran business, but this is already undermining the credibility of European foreign policy. Now, this is significant because, remember, Germany for the past 6 years or so has been talking a lot about making Germany a power internationally speaking, making Germany a global power again. When it talks about European foreign policy, ultimately it's talking about German foreign policy, and Germany wants to be a global force. And so the Germans here are saying America is undermining our pursuit towards becoming a global power. America is our hindrance. Why is America our hindrance? Well, they want to stop us from doing trade with people that we want to do trade with. This is impeding our freedom. Why do they want to stop us from doing deals with Iran? Because of the pro-Israel position in America. That is the reason why that's the main reason why, or that definitely does have a main role in influencing America in its goal to stop other countries from doing deals with Iran. It's because of the pro-Israel position, and Iran is the biggest threat right now towards Israel, and Israel is America's number one satellite state or number one ally within the Middle East. And without Israel, America doesn't have so much of a foothold in the region. So if you support Iran, you support Israel's biggest threat. And so America does not want Iran to grow as an economy, does not want Iran to grow as a regional power. Germany doesn't really care about this. That's why Germany has been a major trading partner with Iran for a long time. America wants to prevent Germany from being a commercial ally, and the Germans see this as America trying to control them. Well, why does America have this position? Because of the pro-Israel position that America holds. So you can see how Germany's agenda of becoming a global power could actually escalate towards hating Israel. The report also says Europe and Germany have to adjust to increased controversies, more open and contentious debates, and also conflicts with the USA. Why conflicts with the USA? Because of America's pro-Israel position. Marko Papic, who is a geopolitical analyst, made an interesting observation that I found in WikiLeaks. And he wrote, quote, "Trade with Iran is not something Germany throws away easily. Data we have point to a robust trade relationship, particularly in this one sector. However, pressure from the U.S. plus also Israel, we need to at least mention it, is forcing Merkel to shift here." So Germany wants to make trade deals with Iran. America doesn't want this to happen. And the Germans see this as not just America exerting pressure, but Israel working through America to impose pressure upon Germany. In 2008, just to give you guys an example, in 2008, Germany wanted to establish several liquid natural gas plants in Iran, but this was opposed by the pro-Israel lobby within Germany, which consists of two organizations, the German-Israeli Friendship Society and the Mideast Freedom Forum Berlin, as we observed by a report referenced in WikiLeaks. Quote, "Critics of the Islamic Republic, including the German-Israeli Friendship Society, say the deal's approval was unnecessary and even harmful. They have urged the gas contract be rescinded to further isolate Iran over its nuclear enrichment activities. The Steiner deal just shows that existing sanctions have been ineffective," said Jonathan Betkerle of the Mideast Freedom Forum Berlin, a nonprofit group supported by Jewish organizations. Betkerle said his group will lobby German politicians to help overturn the government decision. So in 2008, just to show you how long this has been happening, in 2008, Germany wanted to build some liquid natural gas plants in Iran, and this project was hindered. It was prevented due to pressure from two or really numerous pro-Israel organizations who had the ear of the state, and these organizations really speak in favor for advancing Israel's interest. So the Germans are seeing this as Israel encroaching itself on their government and preventing the Germans from pursuing their own interests. In 2019, the official Twitter account, and this is another interesting phenomenon, is that you have Germans who are pro-Palestine who are extremely anti-Israel, almost to a Nazi level. Being pro-Palestine can most definitely lead to just outright Nazism. You have people who are so pro-Palestine that they just are pro-Hitler. And this does definitely exist. In 2019, the official Twitter account, Germany in Ramallah, for the representative of Germany's mission to the Palestinian territories, liked posts made by American white nationalist David Duke and other anti-Semites. The one directing the account, Christine Klages, liked as a must-read an article that compared the Holocaust Memorial Yad Vashem to the historical accounts of totalitarian states. Klages also liked a post by David Duke in which the former Klansman told a Palestinian follower that Jewish racists would have mutilated innocent Palestinians, raped, and led through Jewish villages before they were executed. And when you have a German politician who is representing the German government in the West Bank, praising David Duke, I mean, it really does show you that this Nazistic sentiment is still in Germany. It's still there. And there are people in government who hold to this sort of ideology. And it really goes to show you that, Germany is very pro-Palestine. I remember years ago watching a video interview with Norman Finkelstein, who is definitely the biggest voice when it comes to being pro-Palestine in the United States. And Finkelstein went to Europe to do some speaking engagements, and he said, do you know which media in Europe is the most critical of Israel? He said, it's the German media. And isn't it interesting? Germany does the biggest massacre of Jews in history. And today, the German media is the most critical of Israel in Europe. It's like Croats did a whole giant massacre on Serbs during the Second World War. And which country is the most critical of Serbia? Croatia. Albanians, Croatia and the other countries that did massacres on Serbs. The Albanians massacred Serbs. The Bosnians massacred Serbs. And which countries are the most critical of Serbia? Croatia, Bosnia, Albania. It's really quite fascinating how you really can't divorce the present from history. When you look at present situations, you have to see them in their historical context. You have to see them against the historical background. And the fact that Germany did the largest massacre of Jews in all of history, and then today Germany is extremely pro-Palestine, it tells you something. And really, being pro-Palestine can definitely overlap with being a Nazi. I've seen it before. It's really not that surprising. The frustration, frustration against talking about the Holocaust, against Holocaust memorials, was expressed by the biggest right-wing nationalist party in Germany, the Alternative for Deutschland Party, or the AfD. In 2017, in a beer hole meeting, and I want to hear about German nationalists and beer holes, I get a little bit of anxiety, I'm not going to lie. In 2017, in a beer hole meeting in Dresden, AfD leader Bjorn Höcke praised his party as the last hope for Germany. Quote, "The AfD is the last revolutionary, the last peaceful chance for our fatherland." His words were greeted with, "Jawohl, yes sir," from the crowd. He then began to reflect the simmering animosity towards the country's focus on Germany's Holocaust history. "German history is handled as rotten and made to look ridiculous," to which the crowd replied with cries of "Deutschland, Deutschland!" Vexing against his country's national guilt for the Holocaust, Höcke lamented that Germans were the only people in the world to plant a monument of shame in the heart of its capital, referring to a memorial to murdered Jews in Berlin, adding that Germans had the mentality of a totally vanquished people. And this idea, this way of thinking, this way of talking is becoming more and more popular. It's becoming more and more prevalent and common. And I would not be surprised to see one day another Holocaust happening. Looking at all of this rhetoric, I would not be surprised to see one day the Jews being massacred in their own country, Israel. And I would not be surprised to see that massacre being done by NATO countries. Germany, Turkey. Would not shock me whatsoever that one day a European army would march into Israel and commit another Holocaust. I would not be surprised to see Germany, Turkey, and their European allies with Iran committing a massacre on the Jews in Israel itself. Would not surprise me at all. Hatred towards the Jews is growing, and I do not like it. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.